So the question is, what can we learn from Japan? Obviously, we didn't learn the right lesson, was to prevent a massive private credit bubble in Canada related to real estate. Now, there's a lot of people that suggest that you can't compare the two. I would beg to differ, because the underlying belief of Japan, and I was aware of this because this is the year I started in the investment business, they were going to take over the world. Economy was booming, high savings rate, investment in technology. They were just dominated in every industry. But they had a massive credit bubble. And when that collapsed, it collapsed the banking system, which made lending, well, that shock too to the economy made lending shrink dramatically. And then the Japanese went on a deleveraging cycle, and that's what we're headed for. Now, take a look at this chart. And this was kind of surprised me anyways, when I wanted to compare, because this bubble, the Japanese bubble, surpassed the US bubble that led up to the Great Depression. And this is only, you've probably seen my charts, but this one leads up to 2020 at the height of the COVID lockdowns. And you can see that we've surpassed that, but you can see that it followed this pattern, which is interesting, right? Anybody, I'm looking forward to inputting this into artificial intelligence. By the way, the long wave will be AI accelerated and modeled, simply because it's I don't have to do all the mechanical inputs, because I've got enough research for 6 books, and one of them is just the model and all the inputs that I have, right? I'm doing pretty much all of this manually, and then just making sure it's following the pattern. But this one here, as I said, really blew me away. Now, here's the thesis. Falling interest rates is going to save the Canadian real estate market. Look at Japan, where interest rates were when it peaked. This is the 10-year bond, just over 8%, and it's been falling ever since, and it did nothing to stop the real estate bear market from unfolding. So those that want to suggest that it's going to make a difference, and here's the problem, is that society leveraged from the zero bound. So the ability to soften the blow is not there, because you need interest rates lower than at the point that people leveraged. Does that make sense? Now, here's another chart from Richard Werner, and the same thing you can see here with the government bond, the call rate, that and there you can see an inverted yield curve, but interest rates on the short and long term did nothing at all. And again, because people don't understand, and this is where socioeconomics comes in handy, right? The long wave, the seculum cycle, socioeconomics, these are all reflective of social cycles. This is why most economists missed it. They don't take the human into account. And as I've alluded, this is why the WEFers are going to fail. They're not taking the humanity into account, and for that reason, it's going to fail massively. Now, take a look at Japan's credit inflation and then credit deflation. Look at their GDP. I mean, we're looking at 5.5%. They were averaging almost 6%. Can you see? And then see what happened after 1990, and then as they went to recession, and they spent 2 decades with little to no growth whatsoever. That's just a hangover, right, of economic winter. So to believe and dismiss and everything, Canada is not even growing at that. We're growing at what, 3%? So you can see that why I'm suggesting people start to deleverage, because we don't have the, let's say, the parachutes that are going to help soften the Canadian real estate bubble. Now, if you want to take a look at, here's their consumer credit, and you can see that just that skyrocketing. And you can see they're deleveraging here over 2 decades. This is an older chart, but again, the point is that's what deleveraging looks like. So when I make a suggestion regarding this is going to occur regarding real estate, and have you started to deleverage? And I'm serious about this because the key aspect is that we have, one, the precursors for a credit bubble. Remember, I mean, that chart, if you're looking at this chart, it's just a warning. It doesn't give you a timing, right? But we have a record amount of private debt tied to real estate, predicated on low interest rates. That is over. We have a secular rise in interest rates in its point. GDP is growing at half what Japan was growing at the peak. And I didn't mention that government is more indebted, almost double what Japan was at its peak, to help soften the blow. So we have these underlying issues. The most important thing is that, and I've said it before, is that in 2024, these cycles will be coming together. And the lessons from Japan was not to leverage. Society has. So what is the purpose of the long wave is help to get you through economic winter, because economic winter, as you saw with Japan's GDP, is going to be very difficult and challenging for businesses and individuals. And the long wave will just help you navigate through this crisis, simply because it's so large and so leveraged. Yet what's different from Japan is we don't have the parachutes to help soften the blow. And that should be a concern for, I think, for everyone. Anyways, as always, let me know what you think. Some comments, always appreciated. I read them all. I'm looking for insights, see what the reaction is. And I've said also before, the website now is a combination of, let's say, long wave students, right? If you're just really interested in all the more detailed stuff is there. This and the videos, and I should have done this a long time ago. It's just to simplify, right? You're going to see unique charts you've never seen anywhere else. You're going to come to understand the long wave. And at the Substack, you can get to that point there is have access to the Condrative's secret, and that is the long wave model designed for Canadians, right? And I'll be updating that today for clients. So anyways, as always, we will talk soon.